Welcome to the Currer Pouch tutorial. The pattern includes instructions for 3 sizes of pouch with various zipper options, which are all covered in the tutorial. The pouch has an option for interchangeable labels on the zipper tab and has been designed to have no seams at the sides, all of which means they're perfect for displaying on your shelves as a beautiful and fun storage system. With my sewing room in mind, I designed size 1 for storing my clips, size 2 for my crochet hooks because I wanted to have them standing up, and size 3 holds all my purse and bag frames. So come and sew one or all of them with me. I'll be making size 2 in this tutorial, and you can find a list of fabric and equipment requirements in the pattern itself, and the link for it is in the description box below. So go grab it and let's get started. So at this point you will have cut out your fabrics, lining and exterior. You will have fused your woven interfacing onto the lining piece, and you will have transferred the markings from the pattern piece onto the wrong side of the lining. Then we're going to start on the exterior actually, because we just need to baste this sew-in foam onto our exterior of the fabric. So number 4 stitch length and 1/8 of an inch seam allowance on this. Now we're going to set the exterior aside and start with the lining. And we're going to identify which of these longish sides is the shortest side, and that will be the top of the piece. This side is mine, and I'm going to bring the 2 short ends together, match them up, and then we can always put a clip in there if we need to. We're going to sew with a 2.5mm stitch length and 1/4 of an inch seam allowance from the top down to the first line that you transferred. Don't forget to backstitch and at the front, at the beginning and the end. And then we'll start again here. We're going to leave this gap for turning. We're going to come down to 1/4 of an inch before the end, stop, pivot and come to the creased edge. Remember to follow this little bit here. It's not quite straight. It does go at a little bit of an angle around here. Next we're going to draw a line up from the bottom 1 3/4 of an inch all the way across, and we're going to do it on the other side. I want to tell you though, please do make sure you're using the right measurement. On the pattern, the size 1 is the black ink, the size 2 is the red ink, and the size 3 is the blue ink. So when we've done that little bit of marking, I hope you can see it on here, we're going to, along this creased edge, we're going to just do a little mark where these 2 lines meet from the front and the back. We're going to put our hand in the bag at the sewn side seam, and we're going to put our fingers right down to the corner, open it all the way up. We want to line this side seam with the bottom seam. Get them nice and level. Open up all the way to the point so we can get this as accurate as possible, because we're going to be using this line here to sew our boxed corners. And once you're happy that this line is lying nice and straight, you can pin or clip, and then 2.5mm stitch length and no seam allowance, because we're going to go directly on top of this line. Next thing to do is make this into a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance by trimming away this corner. And then we're going to do exactly the same with the other side. but there's no sewn seam here to match it up with, so we're going to use the crease and also this little mark that we made on the crease. That's what's going to line up with the bottom edge. Then again, exactly the same, stitching directly on the top. And again, trimming to 1/4 inch seam allowance. And now we're going to make some centre markings on the outside of the lining. So using the sewn seam as your first guide, let's make the first one here. And then matching, oh, I can't see that. Then matching that one to the sewn seam. We'll take this next one here and then over here. So taking out your exterior piece again, we're going to do exactly the same to the exterior as we did to the lining, but we're not going to, when we fold these short ends together, we're not going to be leaving a gap here. We're just going to go straight down from the top and across the bottom. We make a mark up 1 3/4 inches from the bottom, and again on the other side 1 3/4 inches, and again a mark on the creased edge where that meets. Then taking our hand inside the bag, we'll start with the side seam that has been sewn and match it up with the bottom seam. With these, because it's the foam stabiliser, make sure that nothing's going to wrinkle and you won't get any puckering in your quilting cotton. And the same as we did for the lining, stitching directly on top. Check in to open up the seams. Trim away the seam allowance to 1/4 inch again. Same this side. I know it's the same as the lining, and this is the 4th time we've done it, but some people, most people I would say, like to see all the steps. So I'm going to try and include as much as possible. There we go. Happy with that. Last time. And trim away. So now I'm going to turn it right side through. Don't have to be too particular about it at the moment because we're going to just put the zip on now. So the Currer Pouch only needs 1 length of zip tape. However, it does include instructions for using a number 3 and a number 5. And it also includes instructions for 2 different kinds of tab and 2 different sizes of tab to fit each of them. So I'm going to show you how to do one with the edges that fray. I'm going to do that on the number 5, and one with the edges that don't fray, like vinyl. I'm going to do that on the number 3, and on both of them I'm going to pop on windows. The first thing we'll do is, before we cut our tape to length, put on our zip pulls. They can wear out the end a little bit while you're having a fight with them, so it's best to wait until the end so you can trim it more accurately. You might lose a little bit on the end if you keep trying to cut it so it's level. I'm going to need 8.5 inches, perfect. And then I'm going to make a mark 1.5 inches down from the end of the open end of the zip. I'm going to carry that mark all the way across the tape. The line here is where we want to fold the right angle of the zip tape. So fold over to the front and to the side at a 90-degree angle, put the coil across the line you've just drawn, and then tuck everything behind. And that will give you a nice little right angle there. Now the next thing to do, some people find this difficult, but I'm going to put a little tack here. Doesn't matter what stitch you use for this, but make sure it doesn't come out beyond the seam allowance of 1/4 inch. So I'm going to say 1/8 inch for this. And a stiletto is a really good addition to your tools. If you don't have one, it's brilliant for this. Okay, backwards and forwards a couple of times, and there we have it. Then I go ahead and do it on the other side too. So we want to come forward and at a 90-degree angle, line the coil across the line we drew, tuck everything to the back. And there we go, should be level with the other one. Same again, 1/8 inch seam allowance there while we tack it down. Can be different if it's not your non-dominant hand, but then the other side is difficult for left-handed people as well. So I'll quickly show you how to do the number 5. You can do it exactly the same way as we did the number 3 by pulling it across at a right angle to the front, coil across that mark and pushing it back. You can do that, or with this, because the tape is wider, it's not as stiff either. You can pinch the tape between your forefinger and thumb and just put it in place like that. So once again, pinch it and lie it across. And then you have to just do the tacking in exactly the same way. So this is the number 5 zipper tab with quilting cotton, and we folded in 1/4 inch along each of the long edges, and then 1/4 inch along the short edges, and then folded the whole thing in half, brought those 2 folded edges together. I've used some best press here because it really helps it to stay in position when the next step is to put the tab inside that right down to the fold and then clip it in position. The best press just really helps with that. And then at the machine, we'll turn it around this way, and we're going to sew on this closed folded edge here. We're going to use a 1/8 inch seam allowance, come up from here at the corner, across the tape and back down to the folded edge. We're not going to go across this, but you can if you want to, but I find it looks better if you just do the 3 edges. And just note that all the way through here, we're going to be going through all of the layers. So all the way through the tab and across the zipper tape. And also we're going to do this as top stitching, so that means that we'll use about 3.5 stitch length. Might be difficult for you to see, but here's my stitching. So for vinyl tabs, we're going to fold it in half with the short ends together and find that midpoint, because we're going to draw a line down there. And then we're going to bring in the short ends to that line on both sides. And then we're going to bring these two folded edges together and put a clip on each end to secure it. Take our zipper and just put that in there till it goes all the way down. Then I like to move my clips over to here, and we're going to start sewing this edge to the corner, across the zipper tape and back up to the folded edge again, and 1/8 of an inch again all the way around. A little bit more tricky because you can't see the zipper tape, but it's going to be 1/8 of an inch in from the zip tape. And for this bit you might want to swap out to your Teflon or Ultra Glide foot. What I did there was I wasn't sure whether I was going to actually hit the 1/8 of an inch from this edge of the vinyl tab. So I just decreased my stitch length way down to not even quite a 2. Did 1 stitch. Now when I pivot, I'm going to be 1/8 of an inch away from the top of my vinyl. And now I'm just going to put my stitch length back to how it was, and away we go again. Okay. And then when we're done, being careful not to cut into where the zip tape is, trim the vinyl edges so that we end up with a nice little zip tab. So for the zipper window, I'm going to show you on the number 3, we're going to take our window piece and fold the short ends together. You just have to believe I'm doing this because it's like the Emperor's New Clothes, they're completely invisible. And pop the zipper tab in so that it goes all the way to the fold here. And then we're going to just sew across the top, not along the sides, but just go across the top of these stitches here so that the sides are open so we can put the labels in there. Again, just shortening my stitch. And now we just snip along the edges of the tab, being careful not to cut into the tab. Do that on both sides. And across the top. There we go. So to do the zip, we need to first make some centre markings. Again, same as the lining, we're going to use the sewn side seam as our guide. So fold it in half from there. We're going to make a mark on the inside on the foam stabiliser at the crease. And I like to just bring it up onto the top of the foam as well, because then I can see it from each side. And then putting that mark together with the centre of the sewn seam. It's a bit more accurate if you open it up, especially when this foam is involved, because remember that foam is about 4mm thick, so it can make a lot of difference. Okay, and then we're going to use that as a marker to do the side markings here, a side mark here, yeah, and across the top. So now we've got those centre markings in and we know that this is the back and this is the front. I'm going to make markings on the front and the back to either side of these side markings. So I'm going to make them 3/8 of an inch to either side. Okay, and so I will refer to these as the front marking and the back marking on the pouch. And we'll do the same on the other side, the back, the side. 1, 2, 3/8. 1, 2, 3/8. There we go. So take out your zipper tape again. On the wrong side, make a mark 5 inches along from the open end and extend that right across the tape. So I've got the front of my pouch, not the back of my pouch with the sewn seam, the front, and it's right side out. I've got my zip here opened up. I've got the wrong side facing me, the right side of the zipper is down, and I'm going to find the mark on the front right hand side of the pouch. So it's this pink one here, not the black one, that's the centre marking. So I'm going to line up the coil, remember right sides together. I'm going to find the coil and align it with that mark and pin in place, clip in place. And then I'm going to find the mark that we made earlier on the wrong side of the zip and match that up with the mark on the left side of the front of the pouch, not the centre marking, the one on the front of the pouch. And then just clip the rest of that in place. Then when we've got all the pins in place, we need to find this mark again on the zip tab end, and I like to just slide my clip along about 1/2 inch away from the marks, and then we need to move this zip tab down about 1/4 inch here. So mark there, 1/4 inch in between, and that is where we're going to start sewing, right at that point on the mark. Put another clip on there. So I've turned my pouch in the wrong way because I don't have a free arm, and this is the easiest way for me to sew on flatbed. So if you remember, we've got a mark here at the tab end of the zip, and we've got a 1/4 inch gap here. I've pinned this in place, clipped it in place just because it's easier to hold it there, but I'm going to remove it now because we're going to start sewing here. And I've got my zipper foot on for this part. And then we just continue around with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now we've got the pouch the right way again, you can see where that veered off. So now we'll turn around to do the other side of the pouch. We're going to have the right side of the zipper together with the right side of the fabric again. So we'll turn that over. Make sure that this isn't twisted and match it up with the mark on the back of the zip with the marking on the right hand side of the back panel, not the centre seam, but this one here, this pink one. Okay, I'm going to pin that in place, clip it in place for now, but we are going to veer that downwards. We're going to mark up the coil with this pink mark that I made on the left hand side of the back of the pouch. Put a couple more clips in there. I don't know why I say pins. Sorry if that's confusing for you. Okay, and then again at this tab end, half an inch before this mark, which I'm really sorry, keeps wearing out. On these zip tapes, the ink I use just sinks in, and of course if you mark with chalk it wears away. So again, I'm going to go about half an inch away from the mark and pull it down so I've got a quarter of an inch between the top of my tape and the edge of the exterior fabric, and clip that in place. And again, I'm going to turn mine inside out to sew it. So this time, when we come to sew it, we're going to start at the coil edge and make our way to the tab end. Alright, and that is the back bit done. You see, that's where we've come down on this bit here. So now you can clip away these extra bits here, we don't need those. And your zip tab, when it's done, will look like this, it will lie that way. So make sure before you go any further that that is how it looks. Right, so now we're going to do our last bit of construction. We're going to have our exterior pouch right side out, lining wrong side out, and we're going to take the exterior and we're going to put it inside the lining. Match up these seams at the back of the pouch. Now of course the exterior is a little bit bigger than the lining, so you just have to wriggle it and wiggle it in. So then you can match up the seams at the back of the pouch, lining and exterior, clip them in place. Match up opposite that one on the front of the pouch, match up the centre markings on the lining and the exterior. Then we'll go to the open end, the open zip end, match it up with the markings there. Then the rest will just fall neatly into place. And for the zip tab, tuck it in between the exterior and the lining. We shouldn't be able to see that at the moment. And match the centre markings, exterior and lining together. So now the throat of the pouch is all clipped in place, we're going to use a 2.5mm stitch length and 1/4 inch seam allowance to attach the lining. You can use the stitch line that we just made putting the zip on. We can just stitch on top of that, which is what I'm going to do now. Still using my zip foot. Take it easy with these clips because they do get in the way and that can be costly for your machine. And now we're going to take it all out and we're going to turn it through this hole, the gap that we left in the lining. So finger press around the top so that the lining and the exterior is lying nice and flat against that zip. And then you can do a little top stitch around there, 1/8 inch, about 3.5mm stitch length. You can take your time with this bit. Top stitching is all about practice. And I like to use whatever colour thread is going to look good with my top stitch, and the bobbin I like to match to my lining. Just rolling the fabric even as I go around. So we're just left with this gap now. If you just put your fingers in and gently but firmly pull it, you will find it finds its own seam allowance. So just finger press the side and then again on this one. There we go. And you have two choices. You can top stitch this closed on the machine. So you can take it and do it here. Personally, I prefer to do mine by hand with a nice invisible seam. I think it will be really nice there, especially with joining up this pattern. Then all we need to do is turn it out the right way. Don't forget to like my video if you have enjoyed it. And if you'd like to hear more, please stick around by subscribing. Make a label for your window. And then, congratulations you've just made a beautiful Currer pouch that's going to sit very proudly on your shelves.